Meghan Markle, the US-backed royal destruction. Most people who dislike this one's wife believe her story begins with a blind date in London in 2016. They are wrong by at least 18 years. The real origin point is the spring of 1999 in a quiet conference room at Yale University's Trumbull College, where an 18-year-old Northwestern freshman named Rachel Meghan Markle attended a closed-door seminar titled Women in Global Leadership. The event was invitation only, funded through a tangle of non-governmental organizations that ultimately traced back to a CIA cutout called the National Democratic Institute. The keynote speaker was a soft-spoken political officer from the US Embassy in Buenos Aires who specialized in democracy promotion and strategic narrative placement. This one's wife took notes. One surviving photograph shows her in the front row, eyes wide, already practicing the half smile that would later sell 1,000 magazine covers. This is where the theory begins. This one's wife has been, since late adolescence, an asset, witting or semi-witting, in a long-range American cultural influence program designed to penetrate, soften, and ultimately neutralize the last great European monarchy as a rival pole of global soft power. The British royal family is not merely a tourist attraction. It is the only remaining institution that can still crown a head of state with genuine mystical legitimacy in the 21st century. Hollywood can manufacture celebrities, Washington can manufacture presidents, but only the House of Windsor can still manufacture gods. That makes it a strategic problem for any superpower that wants uncontested narrative dominance. The CIA's Cultural Operations Division, yes, it is still very much alive after the Congress for Cultural Freedom was shuttered, has been thinking about this problem since at least the Suez Crisis. This one's wife was not the first candidate. There were others, an Australian journalist in the early 2000s, a Canadian tech heiress in 2008. All failed to reach the inner circle. This one's wife was the breakthrough because she combined 3 non-negotiable traits. 1. Hyper-ambition masters altruism. 2. Physical attractiveness calibrated to maximum cross-racial appeal. 3. A documented willingness to reinvent her own biography. See the shifting stories about her childhood, her parents' marriage, even her ethnicity on casting forms. The grooming was slow, patient, and almost invisible. 2002 to 2003. After transferring to Northwestern, she interns at the US Embassy in Buenos Aires, the same post as the 1999 Yale speaker. Officially, she stuffs envelopes. Unofficially, she is introduced to Friends of Friends, who run women's empowerment NGOs that launder money for regime change operations across Latin America. 2004 to 2010, while grinding through minor acting roles, she maintains contact with a Soho House circle that overlaps heavily with intelligence-adjacent media fixers. Marcus Anderson, note spelling with a C and then with a K, is widely believed to have been a paid MI6 cooperator before flipping to private work. 2011. The TIG blog launches. Read the early posts carefully. The tone is not that of a struggling actress. It is the tone of someone who has been in rooms with serious people. She name-drops Gloria Steinem, UN women officers, and a Rwandan genocide survivor who just happens to sit on the board of a Clinton Foundation pass-through. 2013. She is suddenly invited to speak at the UN's Women Conference alongside Hillary Clinton and Ban Ki-moon. A 31-year-old actress from Suits with no charitable track record does not normally share a stage with the former First Lady unless doors have been opened from very high up. By 2015, the machinery shifts into final gear. A State Department cultural diplomacy contract is quietly awarded to a production company that employs one of this one's wife's closest friends. The remit: identify pathways to insert American progressive messaging into traditional Commonwealth institutions. 3 months later, Violet von Westenholz, whose father is a former Black Watch officer with lifelong intelligence ties, receives a discreet request to introduce her friend, this one's wife, to Prince Harry. Harry, at this point, is the perfect mark. Isolated after the army, furious at the press, desperate for a cause and nursing the mother-sized hole in his soul that any competent case officer could drive a truck through. The wedding in 2018 was the apotheosis. For one afternoon, American cultural hegemony and British pageantry performed a bizarre mating dance on global television. A black cellist, an African-American preacher thundering about slavery, a gospel choir singing Ben E. King. It looked like inclusion. It functioned as a declaration. The old empire was surrendering its narrative baton to Hollywood and Washington. Then came the controlled explosion. Every move after the wedding was choreographed to maximize damage to the institution while preserving the Sussexes as moral victors. The endless briefings about racism, impossible to prove, impossible to disprove, lethal in the social media age. The Oprah interview, pre-taped and edited with Spielberg's cinematographer. The Netflix deal, signed before the ink was dry on the Sandringham Summit. Harry's memoir, ghostwritten by J.R. Moehringer, the same man who polished Andre Agassi's image after his own scorched earth autobiography. Notice the outcome. The British monarchy is now radioactive among everyone under 40. Republicanism in Australia and Canada is at all-time highs. Caribbean nations are queuing up to remove the king as head of state. And yet, the personal wealth and cultural influence of Harry and this one's wife has increased beyond anything the royal family could have given them. That is the genius of the operation. The United States did not need to fire a shot. It simply inserted an ambitious, photogenic woman into the bloodline, let her do exactly what she wanted to do anyway, which is grab the spotlight and refuse to dim it, and watched as the 1,000-year-old edifice cracked under the pressure of its own contradictions. There is a final, bitter twist. Some of the same people who helped orchestrate the insertion now quietly loathe what they created. This one's wife has begun to freelance and to buck the control held over her. The Archwell grift, the endless paparazzi photos she manifestly arranges herself, the crass merchandising, jam and dog biscuits, these were not in the original brief. She was supposed to be Michelle Obama with a tiara, not a Kardashian with a vendetta. But assets once activated are difficult to decommission, and this one's wife spent 25 years learning how to weaponize victimhood, enhancing what comes to her naturally, how to control the frame. After all, control is innate in her needs, how to make the camera love her, even when the public begins to gag. So she remains in Monty Shitshow, queen of her own Republic of One, transmitting American cultural imperialism in its purest form, the monetized personal brand. The British monarchy staggers on, bleeding relevance with every passing year, and somewhere in a Langley conference room, a mid-level officer updates a PowerPoint titled Operation Windsor Downgrade, with a single green checkmark. Phase 3. Neutralization via cultural overload. Complete. The crown is not dead yet, but it is on American life support, paying its oxygen bill in Instagram likes and Netflix royalties. And the woman at the center of it still signs her emails with love and light, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex.